when we talk about diverting traffic, the only change to traffic is the people that are doing the yellow movement now would simply be able to travel a little further east and get back to where the yellow line is. And this project is not being done.
Winter Park residents, I think some of them are people
Yes,
driving
I
to
would
Winter
imagine.
Park that are going home.
The project isn't being done to help the people making the yellow movement. Okay? Their wait time is going to be the same with the new alignment as it will be in the existing case. The intent is to help the north-south traffic by keeping those left-turning vehicles out of the dogleg area. And if you go out there and you drive this in the afternoon or in the morning, you'll see that those left-turning vehicles take a 4-lane road and make it 2 lanes because they block the inner through lane. And so that's the intent of this Lee Road extension.
10, 12 years from now, when we have now bisected our community and we have now loaded the street that happens to be Linda Walker, I want you to understand, I live off Palmer. And I can tell you right now it takes 35 cars for me to pull out in the morning during rush hour. And that is before you give these people the option of going straight. And I know you believe that you're not going to add any new cars. What I would say is when you give a person an option of going straight or turning, generally if that's the direction people are trying to go, they're going to go straight. And some of those people may now be turning left. They may be now going to Howell Branch. We don't know that, nor do we know the 14,000 Ravidash trips or the Trader Joe's trips or the new apartment trips or what's going to happen with Mount Vernon. So where I'm at is let's don't rush into a solution that may not actually be solving the problem and do it in such haste that we haven't looked at the new development. And I guess my thought is the old traffic studies and the old reports told us that cut-through traffic, increasing this traffic is indeed a legitimate concern. And I think you see a room full of people who are legitimately concerned and a community that's very, very precious. And you read these reports, you've heard numerous ideas from people in this room of ways to make this better. If you go through all those traffic reports, I can list, and I know you can list twice as many, 5 or 6 or 7 things that have said that would help the traffic flow on 1792. So what I would say is let's do those things. Let's do those things. Let's allow commuter rail to take some traffic off that road. Let's get past this I-4 extension before we start doing the last resort, which should be to punch through our neighborhood. And that's the thing I'm saying, Troy, is what are the other options? What are the alternatives that you can do? And do they make sense for you to try them? So the suggestion for the no left turn onto Webster, is that a bad suggestion? Have you already looked at that and discarded that?
Well, the studies that were done in 2002 did not bring up other, they supported a Lee Road extension.
Yeah, they wanted to get rid of the line.
And, you know, our opinion is if you didn't provide an alternative mode for the people on going eastbound on Lee Road, turning right on 1792, if you didn't give them another opportunity to get to Webster and you eliminated that left turn, there would be people that would be upset.
Yeah, the businesses along there came out in force against removing the left turn on Webster before.
And the residents are concerned here. So I think that Mr. Bleidenberg certainly had a wonderful suggestion relative to doing a more comprehensive look at the traffic. I think this is a huge quality of life issue, and I would love to ask this commission to to give us that time to vet these, to see what we can do, looking at all of the development entitlements that are already in place, so that we do the best job we can with this.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
Okay, so the figures tell us that the city of Winter Park's grown 30% in the last, since 1970, and around us it's grown 300%. So what we're fighting with here are people who are using 1792 to go sort of through our city. There may be some of them city residents and they may not be city residents. So we know that we're not going to change the growth rate around us. We just happen to be the city closest to downtown Orlando. So we're going to have a lot of people continue to come really close to us. But for us at this point to say that we're going to now solve cut-through with this, we're talking two different things. Cut-through traffic is an issue all over Winter Park. We all know that. But I don't see why people are going to start doing this and going that little half block and turning in any more so than they do right now. And I guess that's the big issue. How many new people are going to start using this as a result of this curve? Because you're still making the same number of turns. It's not new. Same number of turns, same number of lights, because you're going to get rid of that one. So that's where I'm having a hard time. I don't see how you're going to be adding people. And I don't want more people coming through my town either. Nobody up here does. But these people right now, and everybody up here goes this way at some point, I'm sure. Just think about your own driving habits. How will they change?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
There seems to be a belief that the congestion on 1792 between Lee Road and Webster intersections create a bit of a buffer for bringing traffic through Winter Park. And I've heard people say let's almost not solve it because it's creating an avoidance measure for people coming through Winter Park. And I think that's incorrect. That's an incorrect assumption because that's when you start looking for cut-throughs is when you start hitting congestion. This was also not meant to solve traffic on Webster. This was never meant to solve traffic on Webster, so when people talk about traffic on Webster, this is not meant to solve that. This is meant to solve congestion in that small little area. And I think Daniel said it earlier, and I think he's spot on there, that when you free up that congestion, you will take that traffic that could be pulling up to this intersection, making a right, then making a left on Denning and shooting up through Maitland. This traffic will continue on 1792 because you've freed up that intersection of all that congestion. It actually helps get people through Winter Park, through the side of Winter Park, not through the midst of Winter Park. The idea to just create a no left turn here and now push all these people down to Morse, we have people from the West Side community here, that will be pushing people into your community. They will be taking the left on Morse, they can take a right on Denning and cut through the West Side. That is actually doing the opposite of what we're trying to attempt to do here. This solution, this realignment, it eases traffic. Nobody has come forward with any evidence that alignment B will create additional traffic through Winter Park. This is taking existing traffic that's coming into Winter Park and out of Winter Park and just freeing up that congestion on 1792. That's all it's doing. There's still nothing on the other side of Winter Park that's all of a sudden going to attract thousands of people to cut through. And as far as cutting through neighborhoods, I know Commissioner Cooper mentioned punching through neighborhoods, that we're punching through neighborhoods. We're talking about going through Votech, we're talking about going through the Volvo dealership, we're talking about going through a redevelopment opportunity. There are 4 homes back there currently who, I've not spoken to any individuals personally, but I would think that this alignment is a heck of a lot better than alignment A or the PD and E alignment that was brought forward by FDOT. That would go directly in front of their houses, and that would create additional traffic right in front of their houses. So alignment B is not going to solve Webster. It's not meant to solve Webster. All it's doing is solving that intersection there and rediverting the same number of people that are currently going on to Webster and freeing up traffic on 1792. And it's a great solution. And I've got to give credit to, I think it was George that kind of originally offered this. So, I
said, don't throw them in.
Commissioner Matthews, do you have anything? I have some questions.
If you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
That's okay.
All right. See, I remember being part of Larry Jackson. when they did this.
Yeah.
And what they did study was the P, D, and E alignment. What they didn't study was alignment A or alignment B. And yes, the report said if you do the P, D, and E alignment, you're liable to have some additional problems in the neighborhoods because it takes you right to where you don't want to go, where we don't want people to go. But that was the recommendation at that time. That was done before any of the current developments that you've mentioned, that we've talked about. What I've learned about traffic is it's going to increase proportional to the amount of developments that you have. Regardless of what we do anywhere else, whether there's nothing there now or something there in the future, 10,000 more units is X number of traffic going somewhere. This is not an attempt, I look at the movements, I drive this way as well. I have a stoplight at Lee and 17. If I do what I currently do, I go down to another stoplight, and I turn, and I go down to Denning, and there's another stoplight. People are making that move. Some people are making that movement. Some are residents, some people are driving through in their park. That will increase proportionately with development, regardless of whether we do AD or the PD alignment or do nothing. It will increase proportionally with development. When we were at DOT this summer, when we went up and spoke, we spoke to the folks at DOT, and they said the basics of the solution haven't changed. They're not even willing to do another PD&E study. They said it's not necessary because the arithmetic of that just increases proportionally. A wise guy that probably worked on this study once told me that you can't stop who comes through your city. You can't stop how many come through your city, but you can certainly decide how people come through your city. And I don't want to see 10-lane solutions. And that's what traffic engineers do when they look at dog legs like this, is they say add more lanes, because that's the easiest default. I don't want to add more lanes up and down 1792. This treats a enigma in the system. This dog leg should never exist. It does. This takes that stacking off of there and places it on alignment B. It directs no more traffic than is already going through there. And we can take that as an act of faith. We can look at all the numbers you want to look at, and nothing's going to say this creates more traffic. Nothing that's been presented to us by either the developer, and again, the study on the PD&E was done here way before development was even considered there. I think it is a straightforward solution because my experience of not being a traffic engineer, but sitting next to many of them and working on developments all over Florida, is that you want to keep people on the main drags. It's like throwing a rock in a river. The water goes around the rock. The water goes to the easiest possible route to get around an obstruction. And if you relieve the obstruction, the water flows through. I appreciate the concern. I have to act in a manner that I truly believe is the correct way to go, because I've seen it before, and I've seen it many times. This is a reasonable solution to an ugly problem we have on 1792. And I'm going to support it.
And Tom, what if it doesn't create the outcome that you're hoping for on 1792? What if it doesn't have any significant noticeable improvement? Then would you still feel as confident and as good about this? Do you see it relieving?
Here's what I continue to have heard from the residents and others who have spoken, is that in some way, shape, or form, this new alignment is going to attract additional traffic to go there. to go through as many obstacles, to go the same distance, do everything that they're doing now, but somehow this is going to increase traffic to go through there. I don't believe it. Do I know it for certain? No, I do not. I don't believe it.
Not as traffic engineer.
I'm not, I admit wholeheartedly to not being a traffic engineer.
So, history is a wonderful teacher, and I want to use history, but I'm going to use current history and move backwards. I have the benefit of that. The first question to me is, I've not heard anyone speak tonight and say 1792 and Lee Road is a wonderful intersection. Has anybody said that? No, it's a mess. It's a...
But that's not an answer.
I don't know if it's the answer. There's other answers. Obviously, there were 3 answers. And we're not going to debate publicly. That's not the point here. But Lee Road in 1792 is a mess. Now, by the way, rush to judgment. I'm surprised somebody's not up here saying, why haven't you all got this figured out in 10 years? Rush to judgment. The strategy was determined by the people at this table that we wanted to have a public forum and we wanted to make a decision on this quickly. So I just didn't wait till 2018 myself, but there's some reason and need for us to talk about this tonight. So the people have spoken and it's before us. Never has this been defined as a cut-through traffic solution for the city of Winter Park. I appreciate those who have spoken for their neighborhoods. There's a lot of neighborhoods that haven't spoken about cut-through traffic through their neighborhoods. And I would argue tonight we need a comprehensive traffic solution. I would also argue I could stop cut-through traffic through the majority of neighborhoods tonight and somebody wouldn't like it. Somebody said, I can't get home the way I used to get home because now there's a no turn sign there and now the police are out there picketing me on this. So, that is an issue that we need to address, and that's a comprehensive traffic solution. The other question, there was something on this property before, wasn't there? What was it? Yeah, actually, what was it called?
Corporate Square.
Corporate Square. So it's not like there wasn't a building that had created traffic and all this before.
There were 2 buildings there.
So that's an important lesson to know. Rush to judgment, there's been no rush to judgment. We could sit here, and I don't think, we have a most current study. Commissioner Cooper, you've been looking at 2004 studies. We have a 2014 study that says this is a mess. And the question before us is not do we stop and eliminate cut-through traffic through Winter Park. It's do we do something that mitigates potentially at this intersection, something that's been going to happen with FDOT, probably whether we like it or not. Is there something that can make Winter Park a little bit better from this? And I don't know that I like A, B, A, any of those. I want one of these to happen because the intersection is a mess and it needs to be improved. Not everybody that comes and turns onto Webster is cutting through. There's some people going home, and there's some people shopping, and there's some people playing golf, and there's some people going to visit their loved ones in the cemetery. It's not all cut through to get to someplace else in our city. And frankly, the tenor of, well, just don't let those people through our city, I don't know, that really is an anathema to me that I've had town forums where people say, put a big fence around Winter Park. That's just not the Winter Park I knew and have appreciated. A question of a historical aspect. In our current comprehensive plan, Palmer is identified as
I believe it's an arterial.
an arterial. So even in our own comprehensive plan, we've identified Palmer as a place where people are going to be driving. So if we're going to have a traffic solution, that's the first thing that we need to do is change our own comprehensive plan to look at whether or not Palmer is an arterial or not. That's in our current comprehensive plan. That's what it says. So that to me is important. The last thing that is important to me is, in 1955, I-4 was going to go right down Denning. I don't think anybody remembers that. I don't. I've been told that story because I wasn't here. So at one point, somebody said, make that go as far away as possible from our city, which is what led to it further on the west side. The state office building and other things. I don't have the actual history of this, but I've been told that at one point there was a 4-lane road designed to go across Lake Osceola. Because we didn't want to cut our city, and that's how the Brewers curves came into being. I'm sure some of you drive that and wonder, what traffic person came up with that? You know, but somebody was trying to come up with something that kind of appeased probably a neighbor or a house or whatever along the way. I fully support and will fully support conversations around a comprehensive traffic solution for Winter Park. It's going to have to be done with technology. It's not going to be able to be done with bigger and more roads. It's going to have to be done by also advancing Sunrail and I-4 expansion and other things so that people who don't need to be in Winter Park have a different alternative to go through Winter Park. And there are no east-west solutions in either of those. So we're going to have to address Fairbanks. We're going to have to address with technology, you know, lots of creative ways. Maybe we should have at 8 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night a police escort. So everybody gets through really fast and then we're back to whatever our city normally is. But there's going to have to be technology. And you know what? I don't need a traffic study or more studies or more expense to tell me it's getting worse. I can go out at 1792 and Lee Road and understand it's a mess. And I can take you to lots of streets in our city that have a lot of cut-through traffic that we need to address. But this is a first step to me. This is a state highway where we've been asked to weigh in. Frankly, yeah, I'd much rather have this done now, or it won't be done now, it'll take 2 years, than in 2020. I'd much rather say, you know what, cut-through traffic has become deplorable in our city. And instead of arrested judgment, people are going to be saying, why didn't you do this a long time ago? So I'm fully going to support, I'm sorry, Commissioner, what are you doing?
I think it's rather, it seemed to be very important to you, whether it was an arterial road or collector. I want to let you know that I'm looking at the comp thing now, and it's a collector.
Okay, I'm sorry, you gave me the information in our work session.
But you know something, what you're saying makes such good sense. Couldn't we do it before we cut the road through? Everything you're saying makes such good sense.
Well, I want to do it, but I don't want to sit here and wonder 2 years from now why we didn't do 1792 and leave it. It's a zoo tonight. It's a mess. It needs to be fixed in 2004, not wait for another 10 years and multiple traffic studies. It's a problem. It's a problem. Our current consultant says it's not going to create any more or any less cut-through traffic through our city. We can debate with every consultant we use, obviously. But this is a mess, and this is a problem that needs to get fixed sooner rather than later.
But your idea of technology is such a wonderful idea. Couldn't we try that just as a first step to see if we couldn't correct this before we took this kind of risk? And to me, it is a risk.
No, I disagree that it's a risk. I think it's something you have to do, and we need to do sooner rather than later. The fact that it was studied in 2004 tells us it was a problem then. It's a problem today. We're not rushing to judgment, folks. We've been at this a long time. Multiple commissions, multiple FDOTs. It's still a problem.
And the other point is that we're not doing this, the state is, to me. That is a very big issue. This is the state doing this. We're not. We're just able to weigh in and say, hey, state, instead of doing what you first of all said you wanted to do, going all the way to Denning, we got a new alternative. We think this is more acceptable to our community. Let's try this. And so to me, that's a win for us because we're able to tell them what we found out. But they're going to do it, guys. They're the ones in charge, not us. This isn't our money.
Well, I think it might actually be better if it was done on their schedule. At least then I-4 would already be complete, and we wouldn't be having that traffic trying to find a way.
Well, this resolution doesn't say what schedule it's going to be done on.
You know, if you actually think about the I-4 traffic, what you want the I-4 traffic to do, if it does get diverted to 1792, is the flow on 1792 as seamlessly as possible.
Absolutely.
So from that standpoint, I would hope that this will be completed as rapidly as possible so that bottleneck is removed and traffic that could potentially be diverted there from I-4, which it will be because I-4 is going to be a real mess, has its easiest way of getting through.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect to my fellow commission members, I think everybody's made their statements
I do
clear.
too.
and I would certainly like to call the question.
Let's vote.
Thank you.
You want me to vote? Clerk, read the roll.
Commissioner Larry?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprinkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
No?
Commissioner McMacken?
Yes.
Mayor Bradley?
Yes. The resolution passes.